Did you know that the Cult of Baal still operates today in America? Now, for those who are unaware of who Baal is, he is mentioned in the Bible as a false god of the Canaanites who were known for sacrificing their children in order to receive blessings from Baal. Baal worship has always been associated with lawlessness. That is, those who believe in him or worship him do not obey the commandments of the Most High. So child sacrificing was just one of many of the rebellious acts that the worshippers of Baal commit. They are also known for lying, stealing, killing, and worshiping many idols. In the book of Kings, the prophet Elijah had a conflict with the cult of Baal. Their lifestyle of lawlessness was not acceptable to the Most High, and it would not go on without judgment. Jeremiah chapter 51, verses 44 through 45. I will punish Baal in Babylon and make him spew out what he has swallowed. The nations will no longer stream to him, and the wall of Babylon will fall. Come out of here, my people. Run for your lives. Run from the fierce anger of Yahuwah. So not only will Baal be punished, but also all of those who follow after him. But notice how it refers to him in the context of this verse. Why isn't false idol that is created by the hands of mankind being referred to as a real person? Baal is another title for Satan, the devil. So whenever Baal is accepted into a society, just know that Satan also is being accepted into that society. And this is very evident in America, as I will show you. The U.S. government recognizes Satanism as a real religion. Mind you, America was meant to be a Christian nation. So why is it that they accepted the Church of Satan and all these satanic cults inside of this land? When the settlers from England arrived to America, they came with Bibles in their hands. They once was a part of the Church of England. They came to this land to escape religious persecution from the church. But they still remained Christians. They only came here to practice Christianity in the ways that they wanted to. And that is according to their interpretation of the Bible. Now you can say these people were hypocrites as Christians, but this was their reasoning for coming to this land called America. So at what point did Satan make the journey to come to this land to infiltrate what will become America? Satan took his seat in this land when his seed arrived, who would infiltrate and take the role of leadership in governing this nation to be. So that's why the very first leader and president of the United States, George Washington, was from the cult of Baal. He was a Freemason. But they would operate in secrecy because the people that formed this nation were Christians. Freemasons would still make their presence known through occult symbolism. It would just take some more time for them to infiltrate the people that would make up this nation. Now, according to the Bible, here's what happens when a nation chooses to accept Baal. You can no longer be a nation under the God of the Bible. You have to choose who you're going to serve. When Elijah confronted the cult of Baal, he said, "How long will you halt between two opinions? If Yahuwah is your God, follow him. But if Baal is your God, follow him." This is in the first book of Kings, chapter 18, verse 21. So you cannot serve both gods. The nation has to choose which God they are going to follow, whether it will be Yahuwah or Satan. And it becomes self-evident based on who the nations choose to follow. In Matthew chapter 6, verse 24, Yeshua said, "You cannot serve two masters. Either you will hate the one and love the other, or you will be devoted to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve both Yahuwah and money." So it is self-evident which God America chose to worship. If you look on the back of a dollar, which is the currency of the United States of America, and it says, "In God we trust." Well, which God do they serve? Well, it's right there on the back of the dollar. So as Yeshua the Messiah stated, it is impossible to serve two gods. You're going to love one and hate the other. You're going to be more devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve two gods. You cannot serve the Most High and Satan. If you love the Most High and followed him as a nation, then you will have nothing to do with Satan or Baal worship. But this is not the case for America. Satan's presence is known in America, and it is acknowledged by the leadership of this nation. But this was something that had to take place over time. The overall culture of America had to change in order for Satan to be accepted into this society as a form of religious freedom. This cultural shift took place in the 20th century. People like Manly P. Hall, who was a 33rd degree Freemason, began to spread occult teachings into America. You also had Aleister Crowley, who was just downright satanic, teaching lawlessness as well as dark satanic rituals which trace all the way back to Egypt. He will go on to make disciples out of many people. Most notably Jack Parsons, who helped the government in developing rocket technology. The recruiting pitch that Aleister Crowley would use to attract new recruits such as Jack Parsons, who resided in Los Angeles County, was with the slogan called "Do as thou wilt." This form of lawlessness is what attracted new recruits to the satanic cult. Places like Los Angeles, where people would do anything for money and fame, will become the stomping grounds for these satanic cults. And this is where Anton LaVey comes into the picture. He was heavily influenced by Aleister Crowley workings, and he came up with his own satanic church. It was founded in 1960s in San Francisco, California. While he would recruit people there, he would also spend most of his time in Los Angeles, where most of the gullible people were, who were open to these satanic ideals. He would teach them how to perform rituals, and he would leave a lasting print on the entertainment industry. Following Anton LaVey, another Satanist known by the name Michael Equino opened his own satanic church in San Francisco, California in 1975. It would become known as the Temple of Set. Set was an Egyptian god who was the equivalent of Baal of the Canaanite Phoenician region. Baal was introduced to Egypt at the end of the Middle Kingdom, and he was identified with Set. The image of Set was always included when scribes wrote the name of Baal in hieroglyphs. Also, Set was known as the Egyptian god of chaos, war, storms, disorders, and violence, all of which are the same attributes given to Satan as mentioned in the Bible. Michael Equino, the founder of the Temple of Set, was also a military officer having high rank in the government. It is possible that he was a CIA operative amongst many others whose goal was to influence the culture of America through the entertainment industry by promoting lawlessness. In the picture below, you can see Michael Equino posing with the Church of Satan, Anton LaVey, as well as with entertainer Sammy Davis Jr.
Attention, all new arrivals to Hell, please have the pink, yellow, and green forms completely filled out. All new arrivals entering on 7-year contracts must have the aforementioned forms, as well as notarized copies of contracts or documented proof thereof.
Hello, furnace room. Sammy speaking.
Sammy, this is Chelsea.
Hi, baby.
You remember the man that you've been watching? The one that you keep insisting is a hot prospect?
Yeah?
Well, I've got him here on the monitor, and you were right.
Really?
He's exactly what you've been waiting for. Can you come up right now?
Oh, honey, if I come up there now and Lucifer catches me, I'm gonna be in all kinds of trouble.
Oh, honey, you can't get in more trouble than what you are right now. Come on up, Sammy.
You're right. See ya.
In the Bible, the devil is known as the prince of the airwaves. Television will become the easiest way to influence the culture of America into accepting lawlessness. This satanic agenda will become prevalent in America during the 60s. During this time period, the youth had begun to rebel against their parents. They would listen to rock and roll music, they would have sex, and they would do drugs. Lawlessness will become the mainstream way of life in America. Groups such as the Beatles, who became popular in America, they were influenced heavily by Aleister Crowley. He is seen in one of their album covers. The 60s and the 70s were the time period when Satanists would infiltrate the music industry and would influence the youth. John Todd was known for blowing the whistle on this, as he was a music engineer who used witchcraft techniques to influence the minds of the listeners.
Most rock musicians get their music while on drugs or from spirit guides, which are demons. That's what your young people are buying and paying for. Now, I'll give you something supernatural you can file away if you don't want to receive it, or take it home and get in the Word and see if it's possible. When witches write a book, they cast a spell over the book so it'll sell. And they order a demon to go into every copy that comes off the press. So when you own a book on witchcraft, you have a demon residing in your home, free of charge. The musicians who do the music that are in witchcraft do the same things to the record albums. The same thing. So when you see that friendly little album spinning on your thing, ask yourself, was the musician a witch? Did he cast a spell over the album that the devil would have a pact in my home because I owned the records? There's more to it than records and books. And this morning, you remember I gave the text, and I meant to get into this then because it fits the text. Your warfare is not physical, it's spiritual. And every Christian should memorize Ephesians 6:12 and stand on it. Look beyond what you see with these, and look and know that the devil has got, thousands and thousands of years of experience. And unless we think with the mind of Christ, he's going to walk all over it.
So this agenda of lawlessness will become prevalent in both the music and entertainment industry of America. And this time, it wasn't just the leaders of this nation, the Freemasons, being led astray, but it was now the people being led astray from the Most High. It culturally became cool and acceptable to be rebellious and engage in acts of lawlessness.
Experience.
There historically, California's been the world leader in cults for a very long time, and I would say that has not stopped, and that continues. The People's Temple. Part of this great story of San Francisco is the People's Temple, which became famous for the Jim Jones, where they killed everybody, killed everybody with poison Kool-Aid in the jungles in Guyana. That was a San Francisco cult for like a decade.
The CIA ran many operations on the unsuspecting public of America, and this includes things such as the drugs, LSD, which were given to hippies at music festival events, and they also were involved in the entertainment industry. To take control of the people, the CIA will set up shop in Hollywood, where they will open up a movie studio in Laurel Canyon to influence the minds of the youth.
Laurel Canyon was like the Haight-Ashbury of Los Angeles, right? So Laurel Canyon was like the music scene, the sort of music and drug and hippie scene of Laurel Canyon's actually where the hippie movement started. There was actually a specific group in Laurel Canyon in LA in about 1965. There was a guy named Vito Polikas, and he had a group called the Freaks, and they were like a non-violent version of the Manson cult, and it was all these young girls, and they basically would go to clubs, and they were the ones to do the beads and the hair and like all the leather and like all the hippie stuff. Like they got that rolling. And so like they were in Laurel Canyon. And in Laurel Canyon, it was like ground zero. There was like this moment where it's like Jim Morrison, The Doors, and Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Frank Zappa, and was it John Phillips, was the Mamas and the Papas, and the Byrds, and the Monkees, and like all of these like iconic bands of that time basically catalyzed over about a 2-year period in Laurel Canyon. The conspiracy theory in this book basically is that the whole thing was an op, and it was a military intelligence op, and the evidence for the theory is that there was an Air Force military propaganda production facility at the head of Laurel Canyon called Lookout Mountain, which today Jared Leto owns and actually lives
I was just going to say that.
Yeah, but it was in that era in the 50s through the 70s, it was a vertically integrated military. Yes, it was a production facility for film and music. And so the theory goes basically there were 3 parts to the conspiracy theory. So one is they had the production facility right there, right where all these musicians showed up. 2 is the musicians, like a very large percentage of these young musicians, were sons and daughters of senior U.S. military and intelligence officials. Including Jim Morrison, whose father was the head of naval operations for the Vietnam War at the time. And there were these other, I forget which ones, but there were these other musicians at the time where their parents were like senior in like military, like psychological operations. And like that's all real, like that's all documented. And then third is the head of the Rand Corporation, who was one of the inspirations for the Dr. Strangelove character in the movie. So he was the guy doing all the nuclear planning for nuclear war. He lived right in the heart of the hippies in Laurel Canyon.
Whoa.
In this famous house that's still there. And so the theory basically goes that the anti-war movement before the hippies was basically a square movement. It was all these basically young people, very clean cut. The men were all wearing, if you look at old like Vietnam War protests, like everybody's all like dressed up like they're going to a business meeting. It was developing into a real threat. And so the theory is the hippie movement and rock and roll and the drug culture of the 60s was developed in order to basically sabotage the anti-war movement.
Wow.
Right.
The 60s were a time period where the people began to revolt against the government and became anti-war. The biggest threat to the government was those who were the famous stars of the music and entertainment industry, as they had the most influence over the youth of America. The government's main concern was the political messaging being pushed in the music rather than the music itself, nor did they care about the sex and the drugs that the musicians were into. The government simply wanted to ensure that these influencers would never influence the masses to rebel against the government itself. So this is how MK Ultra, which is mind control techniques used to brainwash individuals, got into the entertainment industry.
At the end of the Korean War, a number of freed American POWs came home seemingly brainwashed and espousing communist propaganda. American officials suspected that the soldiers had been subjected to what they thought were new communist mind control techniques. Alarmed by the situation, the newly formed CIA allocated $25 million for psychiatric experiments on human beings.
It was the most secret program ever conducted by the CIA in the United States. Patients at psychiatric hospitals, prisoners in federal institutions, and even people in the public were given drugs without their awareness or consent and experimented upon.
Initial projects within MKUltra included Operation Midnight Climax.
They established what were called safe houses, where prostitutes would lure men to these apartments. And then once the men were in the apartments, they were dosed with LSD. And then they were basically studied by CIA scientists, usually behind a two-way mirror.
Another common practice was the hosting and observing of LSD-induced parties with live music. These parties were called acid tests, and the culture that grew out of them played a key role in the development of the hippie and psychedelic movements a few years later.
The government would also use subliminal messaging to influence the masses with the narrative that they wanted, such as 9/11, COVID-19, and the war in Ukraine. The government shapes the narrative of what they want the masses to believe. This is all done through the television. They push the narrative through the airwaves. And I know that it may seem that I'm veering off course, but this all plays a role in Satan's agenda. This is what Satan does. He's the prince of the airwaves. His followers, those who are into Freemasonry, such as Walt Disney himself, are known for using subliminal messaging to influence the minds of the youth to lead them astray. And being that the government participated in the entertainment industry, they are well aware of all that takes place. They are well aware of these subliminal imagery that is being pushed on the masses. But they don't care because they are corrupt themselves and they are in on it. Michael Aquino, the founder of the Temple of Set, who was in the military or worked for the intelligence agencies, was accused of molesting a 3-year-old, but he was protected by the very same government. It says in the article, San Francisco prosecutors have declined to bring charges against an army officer and satanic priest who have been accused of molesting a 3-year-old girl. Deputy District Attorney Michael Williams said police were unable to verify allegations against Lieutenant Colonel Michael Aquino, who was 41 at the time, a reservist and intelligence specialist, and Gary Heinbright, a former Army Daycare Center employee. Williams said he believed the child's story, but the case was dropped because there was insufficient evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. The girl told authorities she was driven to Aquino's house in the Russian Hill section by Heinbright and was molested by a man she identified as Aquino himself. The girl said one room in Aquino's home was painted black. Police found such a room. Aquino's Temple of Set, founded in 1975 as an offshoot of the San Francisco-based Church of Satan, was described by followers as an occult mensa, a path to self-fulfillment through black magic. Aquino said this never should have happened in the first place. You see, the Cult of Baal has always despised children. This goes all the way back to ancient times when Canaanites would sacrifice their own children to Baal for their own personal gain. This still takes place today in America. And if you doubt this, ask yourself, why is it that a large amount of Americans and politicians are in agreement with the Satanic Temple of today, which are in favor of homosexual rights and abortions? The Satanic Temple was founded in 2012 with the main focus of targeting the kids. It wasn't that long ago that Target partnered with a Satanist who came up with t-shirts that said Satan respects pronouns, with the Baphomet appearing on the shirt. It doesn't get more clearer than that. If the homosexual, transgender, abortion movement in America is something that Satanists are behind, that means those movements are clearly satanic. Another sign of the Cult of Baal being in America is the feminist movement. Biblically speaking, the man was always in charge of leading the family unit, never the woman. Adam was in charge of leading Eve. He failed, and that is how the world got cursed as it is today. So the fact that America wants a woman to lead them so badly is a sure sign that the spirit of Jezebel is here in America. In the first book of Kings, Jezebel was a prophetess of Baal. The name Baal is written in her name. She was a Canaanite woman who married the king of Israel, but she would take the role as the boss of the relationship. She would be the one leading their union, which was something that was clearly against the law of the Most High. And the worst part is she was a prophetess of Baal. She was rebellious, she was self-loving, devoid of empathy. She loved what the Most High hates and hates what the Most High loves. Her spirit seeks to use, manipulate, and destroy lives. In the first book of Kings, she infiltrated the Israelites by marrying their king. She then killed the prophets of the Most High. She also ordered the death of an innocent man and stole his land. She also practiced witchcraft and encouraged the people of the Israelites to worship Baal. Being a manipulative woman, she encouraged the king of Israel, Ahab, to replace the religion of Yahuwah with Baal worship. So the feminist movement in America, which condones homosexuality and abortion, is just a sign of where we are today. The cult of Baal has taken over this nation. And the men of this nation is being led by the feminist movement. The former President Biden had called a ban on transgender treatments for children close to sinful. This is clearly going against the law of the Most High. He is in direct opposition to the Most High, just like King Ahab was of the Israelites. And he also was going to hand over the reins to Kamala for a woman to become the first president and leader of the United States of America. Now, that didn't take place, but this still can happen in the future. And if it does, we will see more of what we've already seen in the past. They will continue to push the satanic agenda, targeting innocent children and corrupting the overall culture of this country. And this image that you see here was going to be used as advertisement for Balenciaga, targeting innocent children. You can see the kids in this photo shoot holding up stuffed animals that are wearing sexualized clothing used for bondage. If you ever needed a sign to tell if Satan has taken over a nation, you can always tell by how they treat their children and babies. It was these type of people who have a disdain for the law and for children that the Most High was up against. This is why the children of Israel were giving the 10 Commandments, laws from the Most High, to combat the children of Satan, the cults of Baal, who dwelt in the land that the Israelites were going to possess. The laws of the Most High was clearly against the practices of those people in ancient times and even up until today. The law of the Most High has not changed. What we are seeing in America today is a continuation of the battle that was taking place in ancient times. Like the prophets of the past have said, and like Yeshua said himself, you cannot both serve Baal and Yahuwah. You must choose which God you will serve. Compromising your faith is just another way of showing that you are down with the other side. You cannot play both sides of the fence. The Most High opposes these people. The prophets of the Most High oppose these people. If you are a child of the Most High, you have to be in opposition to these people. They are enemies of our faith. But in America, these people are protected by the laws of this nation, religious liberty for all. That doesn't mean we have to compromise as individuals, but they are protected by the state. And this is one reason that I believe America is the Babylon, or mystery Babylon, that is spoken of in the book of Revelation. All religions across the world are able to be practiced in America, even Satanism. So it was inevitable that this is what was going to take over, because this cannot coexist with the laws of the Most High. You cannot say you're a nation under the God of the Bible while having a religion of Satanism within the land. They do not mix. One will overpower the other based on the people. And the people have made their choice known. They show you who they are down for. If you think America will become better if everyone became Republicans or conservatives, well, that's just not the case, because the opposite side pushes the same agenda as the left.
look at all these people, a lot of them that I've looked up to through my life. I've always paid attention to politics, guys that, then all of a sudden you get invited to, like, well, hey, we're going to have kind of a sexual get-together at one of our homes. You should come. And I'm like, what did you just ask me to come to? Yeah. And then you realize they're asking you to come to an orgy. Yeah. Or the fact that, there's some of the people that are leading on the movement to try and remove, addiction in our country. And then you watch them do, a key bump of cocaine right in front of you.
The Cult of Baal operates on both sides. There is no difference in killing babies through abortion and bombing them in wars. If you think Satan operates only on one side of the political realm, you are sadly mistaken. Galatians chapter 5 verse 19 through 26 shows how these people behave. Now the works of the flesh are evident: sexual immorality, impurity, sensuality, idolatry, sorcery, enmity, strife, jealousy, fits of anger, rivalries, dissensions, divisions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, and things like these. I warn you, as I warned you before, those who do such things will not inherit the kingdom of Yahuwah. If you are a child of the Most High Yahuwah, you must distance yourselves from all who practice lawlessness. Remember, the thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy. Yeshua came so that we may have life and have it more abundantly. John 10, verse 10. Peace and blessings to all who tuned in. Thank you for watching.